While the US is busy upgrading its F-22, China is also not idle. Recently, good news has come from the J-20, which is an outdated netizen. Just a few days ago, a J-20's test flight photos appeared on the network. Originally, Chinese netizens are still focusing on the 6th-generation aircraft test flight photos. As a 5th-generation aircraft, J-20 test flight photos are difficult to attract traffic, but a closer look found that this J-20's is not simple. Through the observation of its tail characteristics, can be clearly found in the two engines. Tail nozzle has a clear difference. The left side of the tail nozzle and the fuselage skin junction of the sawtooth structure, obviously bigger than the right side, and the left side of the engine tail nozzle also appears to be much larger than the right side, and the left side of the engine tail nozzle seems to be a hole. There is no piece of convergence piece. All the features are extremely similar to the rectangular binary vector nozzle. Combined with the Zhuhai Air Show in 2022, China has already made public the equivalent scale model of the binary vector engine, and also published a paper on the binary vector nozzle that year, which said, the institute has carried out research on the binary vector nozzle control system suitable for 4th-generation aero engines, and after simulation and machine test verification, the program is reasonable and feasible, and meets the requirements of this type of aero engine. After simulation and complete aircraft test verification, the program is reasonable and feasible, and meets the requirements for the use of this type of aero engine. Although as early as the Zhuhai Air Show in 2018, the J-20BTVC equipped with omnidirectional vectoring engine has been publicly unveiled, and presented a wonderful flight performance for the audience, able to make the Cobra, falling leaf drift and other overstall maneuvers. But after that, China's omnidirectional vectoring engine disappeared, and the J-20 has never been retrofitted with a domestic vectoring engine. But from the trend of recent years, in addition to the F-22, Russia's Su-57 has also begun to test the rectangular binary vector nozzle, and the J-20's is now suspected to be retrofitted with a binary vector nozzle for test flights, and the rectangular binary vector nozzle seems to have more development potential than the omnidirectional vector nozzle. Compared to omnidirectional vectoring engines, which can provide control torque in any direction, rectangular binary vectoring engines can only deflect the nozzle up and down, providing additional pitch control torque for the aircraft. The omnidirectional vectoring engine is definitely better for the aircraft's hypermaneuverability enhancement. However, there are many problems with the cylindrical omni-vector engine nozzle design, starting with the fact that the omni-vector engine nozzle is more complex, which results in more control components, a significantly higher failure rate compared to binary vectoring nozzles, and additional weight, especially for twin-engine fighters. The extra weight added by switching to omni-vector engine nozzles may even change the aircraft's center of gravity. In contrast, binary vectoring nozzles are simpler to design, have a lower failure rate, and do not require too complex a rewrite of the flight controls. In terms of retrofitting and upgrading existing fighters, the binary vectoring nozzle is definitely easier. Secondly, the design of rectangular binary vector nozzle will also improve the mixing speed of the engine hot exhaust gas and air, reduce the infrared signal characteristics of the rear of the aircraft, which is conducive to enhancing the aircraft's infrared stealth performance. Moreover, the RCS of the rectangular binary vector nozzle is significantly lower than that of the cylindrical engine tail nozzle. Finally, the rectangular binary vector nozzle, due to its more compact design, can be better integrated into the overall design of the aircraft, which can achieve the aerodynamic shape of the rear fuselage to reduce the drag and enhance the aircraft's supersonic cruise capability. For the 4th-generation aircraft that do not pursue stealth performance and supersonic cruise capability, the all-directional vectoring engine is equipped to enhance the aircraft's maneuverability. So the Su-35 and J-10BTVC are equipped with a cylindrical all-directional vectoring engine, but for the 5th-generation aircraft that cares more about stealth and supersonic cruise capability, the binary rectangular vectoring nozzle is a better choice. The J-20, as China's fighter jet, is one of the symbols of China's technological takeoff. However, the J-20, which was designed around 2007, still has some shortcomings from today's perspective. The J-20 is designed to be a large-range 5th-generation aircraft with strong supersonic capability, good stealth performance, and good over-the-horizon air combat capability. and its aerodynamic shape is more inclined to strengthen the aircraft's supersonic and stealth performance as much as possible under the prerequisite of ensuring adequate subsonic maneuverability. In the case of China's lack of high-performance aero engines at that time, the designers could only work on the aerodynamic shape in order to meet the harsh performance requirements, and design the lifting bodyside stripe wing duck aerodynamic layout, which is a very good balance between supersonic cruise capability and subsonic maneuverability, and the overall stealthy design has reached the level of a fifth-generation aircraft. The overall stealth design also reaches the level of the fifth-generation aircraft. In the case of the engine thrust compared to the F-22, there is a significant gap achieved with the F-22, almost supersonic cruise capability. Subsonic maneuverability also has a lot to offer, just because the J-20 is not equipped with a vector engine. In the overstall maneuverability is not as good as the F-22. The final version of the J-20 in service has been able to carry out the tasks assigned to it perfectly, and the military is very satisfied with the performance of the J-20. However, China's researchers also understand the truth that to row a boat against the current is not to advance, is to retreat, especially when the Americans are still improving the F-22. China, as the original chaser, cannot be complacent because of the success of the J-20. There is no completely flawless fighter in the world. The range of the F-22, the supersonic capability of the F-35, and the stealth of the Su-57 are all criticized by the world, and the J-20 is also not perfect. From the design point of view, J-20's stealth performance is still to be improved. J-20 and F-22's frontal stealth performance is not much different, although the duck wing theoretically affects J-20's frontal stealth performance, but the cavity effect brought by F-22's huge inlet surface compartments brings a negative impact on the stealth performance, which is higher than that of the duck wing. As for the side stealth performance of both sides is also half a caddy, J-20 although more than a pair of ventral fins, but the F-22 drogue area is in fact larger than the J-20 drogue plus ventral fin area. The worst part of the J-20 stealth design is in the rear fuselage, the cylindrical engine tail nozzle and tail strut, so that the rear hemisphere stealth performance of the J-20 is far less than the F-22 with a rectangular tail nozzle. Of course, for the pursuit of defensive national defense policy of China, J-20 rear hemisphere fuselage stealth performance is poor can be accepted. After all, in defensive operations, J-20 in the airspace over the country, or over the doorstep of the combat. The rear is basically to provide support to friendly forces, the enemy basically from the direction of aggression over. On the contrary, the F-22, that is ready to kill the other country's airspace inside the war, intercept the F-22 enemy aircraft, may appear from any direction, so the F-22, not only on the front stealth performance requirements, the rear fuselage stealth performance cannot be ambiguous. However, as the People's Air Force, PAF, gradually transforms into a strategic offensive air force, the earlier design of the J-20 is somewhat unable to meet all the mission requirements of the PLA. For example, in the possible future war in the Taiwan Straits, J-20 has to suppress the Taiwan Independence Armed fighters over the Taiwan Straits, and at the same time drive away the US bombers from the direction of Okinawa and Guam, and even have to guard against the US-Japan-South Korea coalition fighters from the direction of Japan and South Korea bases, and at this time, J-20 has to face the threat from multiple directions, and it is very possible that the enemy planes will circle around the J-20, and the enemy planes will come back to the J-20. Enemy aircraft around to the rear of the J-20. In this combat environment, J-20 rear hemisphere stealth performance is poorer. It is likely to form a barrel shortboard effect, affecting the overall combat performance of the J-20 play. So in this case, it is necessary for the J-20 to consider adopting rectangular vectoring nozzles to compensate for the poor stealth performance of the rear hemisphere. Moreover, before the service of the sixth-generation aircraft, the J-20 is still the only weapon in the hands of the PLA that can go forward 1,500 kilometers on its own and intercept the threatening US bombers. When the J-20, with its excellent supersonic cruising ability and frontal stealth performance, tore through the U.S. air defense network and shot down the U.S. bomber, it is time to consider how to return safely. The J-20 in the process of returning to the enemy can only be the rear half of the fuselage. At this time it is the most vulnerable time of the J-20. Almost all of the ammunition, fuel consumption is more than half, cannot continue to entangle with the enemy, need to get out of the war zone as soon as possible. At this time, If the stealth performance of the rear hemisphere is not good, it is easy for the pursuing enemy aircraft to lock the J-20's position and inform the US warplanes in front of them in real time to make up for the defense, thus increasing the difficulty for the J-20 to return safely. In this case, it is necessary for J-20 to adopt rectangular vector nozzle to improve the rear stealth performance. Of course, there are still some side effects of adopting a rectangular tail nozzle, such as reducing engine thrust. According to the evaluation results of the US Army, the F-119 engine using rectangular tail nozzle will lose about 3% of its maximum thrust, and using two F-119s will lose about 6% of its maximum thrust, which has a certain impact on flight performance. Early J-20 engine thrust is insufficient, so the use of binary rectangular vector nozzle is not worth the cost, but with the J-20 replacement turbofan 15 engine, thrust has been quite abundant at this time to replace the rectangular vector nozzle on the bottom, and the replacement of the rectangular vector nozzle is also conducive to the aircraft's overall drag reduction, to further reduce the resistance of supersonic flight. Instead of the supersonic flight performance may make J-20 the J-20 has been upgraded. After such an upgrade, the J-20 will be able to make the F-22 lose its only advantage, the rear half of the fuselage stealth performance. Of course, J-20 wants to change the binary rectangular vector engine, but also to face a series of technical challenges. A short period of time is very difficult to be installed in the Army, especially the J-20 has an extremely complex aerodynamic shape, duck wing, ventral wing, full motion tail and a series of airfoil deflection, has already made the J-20 flight control writing difficulty is very big. This time continue to increase the vector thrust function will make the J-20 flight control writing difficulty geometrically multiplied. The troops also need to readapt to the flight characteristics of the J-20 and even rewrite the flight syllabus. But no matter what, behind the high risk is often a high benefit from the point of view of improving the adaptability to the future air combat environment. J-20 is very necessary to change the binary rectangular vectoring engine. Although the current J-20 against the F-22, F-35 has basically enough, but the United States is not a paper tiger. Their designers are also trying to find ways to enhance the performance of the F-22 and F-35, such as the addition of photoelectric detection system for the J-20, research and development of a new generation of long-distance air-to-air missiles, and upgrading the stealth paint. As the main combat aircraft of the Chinese Air Force for at least the next 30 years, the J-20 can't be improved or upgraded even for a moment.